Here you go. All right, welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Perspective podcast. I go by the name of Damiso Josey. Alongside, we have a special co-host in the building. Introduce yourself.
I am Dr. Iglesias.
Thank you for making this journey with us. Unfortunately, Stacy couldn't make it. It's Christmas time, family, busy stuff. I get it. It's actually my birthday today, so I'll take off today and come up here. We are in New York City. It's a big, big deal for me. They say if you make it here, you can make it anywhere. So we're up here. We're going to talk about my book, Life Music. Dr. Iglesias, you have a book coming out too. We're going to talk about that quick. We have a couple of special people in the building. We'll get to them in a minute. But let's just talk about the book. And I'm going to reveal some things in this book that people may not know. But let's just talk about your process. I know we talked about it a little bit over our Christmas special, but how was writing your book for you?
So for me, it was difficult because I'm writing a book about my whole life, my life story, my trials and tribulations. So it really put myself back in that spot of where I was. And it was difficult. There was nights that I was crying and I was like, what the hell was I doing? Like the things that I was going through, why did I stay? Just decisions that I made. So it was very difficult in some spots, when I was writing it. So I had to kind of push myself through it.
So why did you write the book in the first place? Why go on this journey?
Because people need to tell their story. Mm-hmm. People need to be aware of what's going on around the world and also how I got through it and what I've done with it. So.
Anything you want to share about this book? Any hidden gems that are in there? No. Actually, no. Let's change that. Because I know you talk about people that are in the book. Like, are you worried about their perceptions of once you put this book out there?
Well, I think we talked about this on the way here. So, actually, yes, there's a couple of them, more of family members that are going to read it, and they're probably going to be upset, be mad. Sure. But I'm still going to release it. It's not going to stop me.
Makes sense.
Because at the end of the day, this is my perspective. Mm-hmm. This is my truth. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to write their piece to it, go right ahead. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Are you ready to reveal the title of the book, or are we going to hold that?
No, I can reveal it.
What's the name of it?
It's Dr. Stephanie Chronicles, Far From Perfect. It's really going to be a series of books. Mm-hmm. So this is just the first one. It's really about not being perfect, because we're not perfect and we go through things. True.
And how are you going about releasing this? Are we doing the publisher route, or are we going to do independent route?
I'm actually going to self-publish.
Right. That is awesome. I did the same thing with my book as well. So who's the audience for this book?
So mostly it's going to be for women who are going through trials and tribulations, women who are in a very abusive relationship and are trying to get out.
That's nice. So you have children.
Yes.
Are you afraid of the stories that are in the book and how they perceive it?
Nope, because they already know. They already know what the deal is. They're the ones that were in the house. They're the ones that heard the things that were going on. They have seen things, so it's not anything that they don't know.
Right. Makes sense to me. So my book, Life Music, it dropped. I'm going to share a couple of gems that are in there that people don't really know. The process for me was very liberating. I actually feel great that I put it out there. I was afraid of the perception, specifically of with my wife and how she would come across in the book. But people hit me up and was like, I really love the love story in it. When writing it, talking about some of the worst times of my life, I didn't think it was going to be a love story. So, but there is a love story element to it. Talk about addiction. I talk about, motivation and being at the bottom and trying to get my way up to the top. So that's what the book is really about. So within the book, you have to be a hip hop artist or hip hop fan in order to understand a lot of the stuff that's in there. I was a hip hop artist in college. My man, Tim, we can talk about that in a minute. And when I introduce him, can let you know a little bit about that. So you'll see in there lyrics by somebody called Laura Essence. And that was the name of my I guess, character, you could say.
What was your pen name?
It was my pen name in there. So Laura Essence was in there. But the chapters are laid out. You have to know hip hop a little bit to understand. So, for example, one of the chapters is called Untitled, a salute to Nas. And Nas had a album that was coming out that he wanted to call the N-word. I'm not going to say that here. But the story is about a kid when I was 8 years old who called me the N-word. So you have to understand a little bit about hip hop to understand the titles and the things of that nature. My uncle was the person that was abusive to me. I wrote it in the beginning, making it seem like it was my father, but it was. A lot of people think it was my dad, but my dad left. It ended up being my uncle. And people asked me why didn't give him a name and capitalized he. So if you into the Bible and the Bible and religion in the Bible, God is referred to as he as a capital H sometimes. So I wanted to give him this big power that he had over the house, but sort of also not give him a name at the same time. So that's kind of the reason why that was in it. And later in the book, I lowercase his name because he becomes an insignificant part of my life at that particular point in time. So that's another gem. The last one I'll share is the conversation that's in it. It reads like it's a therapeutic session, but it's actually me talking to myself in the book. And the way it worked is when I was in hip hop, I was in a group called Nemesis in college, and we got older, and I kind of went my own way, and I wanted to create my own album called Life Music. And it was just about my life and music about my life. And I always knew something about life music was going to come out. This was like 20 years ago. And then finally, I guess God stepped in and said, no, you're not going to be a hip hop artist. You're going to write this book. So this is where life music comes in. And it's a conversation of my old self versus my new self. So the therapist is the old me back in Temple days. And then the current me is reflecting on these stories. So there's some hidden gems that are in there that if you didn't pay attention to, I just gave away the secret. So that was pretty much it. I had somebody did email me a question about perception and how people perceive it. I want to be fair. So Life Music 2, I'm coming out with a version where everyone tells their story of an interaction with me. I got to get it past my wife first, though. Stephanie, you know my wife. So I don't know.
I was trying.
You got to work on that a little bit more to get her story out there. So I don't think she's going to share it. But Life Music 2 is going to come out eventually. And it's just basically untold stories from everyone else's perspective. But I wrote it just as a motivational piece and then sort of free of myself and the things that I was going through. So that was the book. Any other comments about your book and when this thing might drop, Stephanie?
It's going to definitely be 2018, probably February, March timeframe at this point. So I'm still working on a couple things, and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to let it go.
All right. What else are you into? You have another website out. Let's talk about that real quick.
I'm also do Tasteful Art Experience, which is working with families who are having issues expressing themselves, self-esteem, communication. So I use art as a method to help them do that. Right now, I'm actually running a 12-week program at Daniels Den Community Center, and I'm working with about 10 people, which are 5 families, women and their daughters, who are having issues with their relationships together. So I'm working with them, and we do different art projects to try to help them work on the relationship together, work on communication, coping skills, and self-esteem. So at this point, I'm on week 4 this week. So
all right. Good luck to you. And I know we got to work on some branding things for you, the book and all that stuff. So all that stuff is going to come together. Yes, you do have a lot going on. So we're going to move on and introduce this person. Somebody that's really, really special to me. We grew up together. It's been a while. We've known each other probably for...
So I don't even know if I want you to say it.
Man.
32 years.
32 years. That's crazy.
Wait, 33.
That is crazy. So I've known this man for more than half my life. He hails from the slums of Shaolin, a.k.a. Franklinville, New Jersey. Mr. Frank Speiser, thank you for being on this podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
That's great. It's an honor, actually. It's great to see you, Stephanie, and just to see you up here, what you've done. You know, I've seen the whole, from the beginning to the end, and it was great to reconnect, and as adults, it was even great to be able to make it down to where you were, vice principal, right? And you're an educator, and it was great to meet the kids that you're helping, and you just never stopped helping. I've been lucky enough that some of the closest people in my life have gone that route. Like you went that way. Christian Lynch, my best friend growing up, was first person to graduate from Princeton, from Delsea Regional High School in Southern New Jersey. Now 5 out of 6 the last state championships. So I gotta give them a shout out in football. But Christian decided to go back and become a teacher and help kids like us find a way to get from point A to point B. Which is why I think what you two are doing is super important, because when we were younger, I don't know if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when we were younger, I never expected that this was even possible. I thought the best I could do was work and grind for every second of the day and maybe just barely pay my bills, but I never thought I'd get to make any of my own choices. So it's great to see you here and great to have you.
Oh, it's also great to see that. Likewise, that knowing part of your story and where you come from, and I want to get into that. But before we get to that piece, let's talk about your company so that people know, and let's give a little snippet of what SocialFlow is all about.
All right. So SocialFlow is the world's largest media distributor right now. We have about 1 trillion in Facebook reach annually. We do about 15 billion first referral clicks off of media. We publish for most of the news. If you read it on social today, it came through us. So New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, CNN, BBC, Reuters, the Associated Press. They're all of our customers. So they give us the news and we figure out when to publish it. And then we have a bunch of data and monetization products on top of that. Mm-hmm. But we really didn't start it with any brilliant idea in mind. My co-founder and I, Mike Perone, I just had my first son, and he had just had a kid, and we were at home. And he sold the companies that he was part of. He worked really hard, was a super success story. He was 28-year-old SVP at Bertelsmann, and when they sold their companies, he didn't want to go to the new one. And then I was a CTO at a company called Tackle, which got sold, and I didn't want to go to the marketing company that bought it either. So we both lived out on Long Island I lived on Long Island for 1 year to see what it was like. It's a crazy commute. No offense to Long Island. I really appreciate, the great people I met out there, but decided it wasn't for us. But in the time we were out there, my wife is really good at marketing, and she had her career going. And I decided, all right, I'm gonna stay home with the kid. Mm-hmm. And so did Mike. And what happened was about a month and a half into that, he and I have these obsessive personalities, and we decided, well, we're going to do something where we get to speak English to each other like adults. So every night we're going to get together and we're going to try to talk about interesting stuff. And so we came up with this podcast and started to build an audience for it. By the first time we tried was a terrible failure. Mm. We recorded podcast, got it down. We both were rave DJs in college. Mm-hmm. We play, all over the place, and there's turntables out here. We go past, we mix down a really good piece of work. We think we share it with 300 of our friends on a mailing list and wait for some clicks to roll in. And, nobody clicks on the links, which was especially disappointing because both of our moms were on that distribution list. So nobody clicked the links, and I think a normal person probably would have just been all right, let's do something else. But we're both stubborn, and we decided, all right, we're going to build an audience for this. So we use the tags that you use in your in your speech, and what we noticed is if we can find you using similar language or around the same time, then we could predict conversion. And we started a very basic derivatives trading platform for attention. So find out how much attention can you pay, and that's really what media is, right? It's I'm going to trade my time, my attention, in order for your content. So it's about setting up how much is it worth, and you might not think, well, I don't have to pay money, but you are. If time is money. So if you spend your time with us, we try to value how much time and compare it to the other things you could spend it with, and we take all the news and we sequence it out the right way and get the most we can for all of our customers.
That's crazy.
So, here we are a couple years later.
Let's go back though.
All right.
I want to know how somebody from Franklinville, New Jersey, with nobody really pointing you in the right direction, what was it in you that even had the thought to do the podcast and even to get to this particular point? How do we go from there to here?
All right. So that's. I'm going to ramble a little bit. Just let me apologize. But I think to get this point across for everybody listening, this is important for everybody back home because it's not a straight line. You know me. I had a propensity to fight a little bit as a kid.
No, a little bit.
So I always had that in me. But basically I just didn't want to lose. And I know that I've seen you waking up at 5 a.m, hitting the gym, about not losing. It's a really beautiful thing about the set of people we grew up around. Mm-hmm. They grind and scrap and hustle because that's the only way you make it, right? So I went to college to play football. realized I got sick, so I medical redshirted my first year there. Found myself so sick that I couldn't even go out or go to class, or I could go to class, but I couldn't go out. So what I did was I spent my time in the computer lab, which was located in the building that I was at. Started building websites, and just sort of found my way into this, and I realized I couldn't afford school. So I was at Boston University, which is a great university. I recommend, if you can go, I think you should. It was great. It was a great opportunity, but I found that I couldn't even stay there, even though I had most of it paid for, because we grew up with no money. So they were like, yeah. So they gave me enough money to do everything except eat, and I just had to find a different way. So I dropped out and went to night classes at UMass while I kept doing it, marketing gigs, and then finally somebody's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll build a website. Build a website. It wound up being really good for the business, for Cablevision, while I was up there. Then I tried to get a raise, and they weren't happy.
It's like, no,
and really it was I didn't want much.
Right.
They weren't willing to give it to me, so I was like, okay then, I'm going to go find another job. So I went and found another job. I won't say what it was. It was a Institute of Higher Education, which most people would recognize. But I went there, and it really wasn't a great fit, and I decided I was going to go out on my own. And when I went back to let them know, Cablevision became my first client. I started to build a consulting agency, and then built that up, to where it was. But basically, what happened is every time I had a chance to learn something or to take a project or to work, I would do it. And I got to the point where I was working, 90, 100-hour weeks. We wound up white labeling ourselves to a major consulting agency. So anytime they had a gig, they'd be like, look, we're going to bill you out at X amount of dollars per hour, and I was like, I'm in. So we built this big team, and it was great, but a bunch of personal stuff sacrificed because of that. There was somebody I was very close to, and we wound up splitting up, and it was one of those things that was like, one day I think I was 25 years old, standing on the front lawn of this healthcare company, throwing a football around in the middle of August while we were waiting for a database to restore. And I remember thinking, as much as I hated this dude that I was throwing the football with, that this was the highlight of my summer as a 25-year-old. And I was like, all right, I got to do something else.
Right.
So I decided to go and take, it took a little while to sell that at the right price, but then I got into something where I could sort of work at and own, and even if it paid a little less, like it was the work product was mine. And so I just started trying, and then I took 2 jobs as a CTO here in Manhattan. I think I did a pretty good job with both of them, and then decided to start one of my own. But the thing that's worth noting is that at some point, and I don't know when exactly it is, but we're ill-equipped for the way we grew up to realize there comes a time when you have to choose what's best to do, not what can you do.
Right.
Yeah, because you get used to taking just every opportunity that comes to you, and eventually you realize, so that you can become successful to the point where people think you're monetarily successful, but you're not happy. And I got to that point early. I was 23 or 24 years old, and then I had lived through 5 or 6 years of, pretty much crushing work misery, because I was like, well, I'm just going to do everything I can because I'm never going back to being poor. And it took a friend of mine who still is a very close friend. I'm going to say his name. His name's Dan Porter. He's an investor here. He was the CEO of Draw Something or OMG Pop. I don't know if you know that, but he's like, look, you can't just do everything. You got to pick what's the best thing to do. And I think for kids coming from where we're from, it's one thing to have the hustle and drive to make it. Most people don't have that. But then you also have to know at some point there comes a time where you have to evaluate the upside on the things you do, because you don't have time to do everything that's put in front of you.
You hear that?
And right now, I imagine everybody in this room is sort of going through that, right? So you need to get good at that as fast as you can. And then, and you know, like that took me too long to figure out, but
we talked about this a while back. I don't remember, and we talked about being hungry. Yep. And the problem with when you're hungry is that you'll eat anything. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think personally, I'm at that hungry stage still, even though I've had successes in my life, and I'm still eating almost everything. I'm starting to pick and choose my opportunities now. So I definitely see it clearing up and I definitely see the impact it's having on my family. Because before it was like, you know, I was on the grind all the time. I'm eating anything, any opportunity that comes with me, then to me, I'm going to take it. And it was just hurting them because I wasn't home, because I was out doing things. So I definitely keep that hunger, because that drive is going to drive you. But like you said, be selective of the opportunities. You want to chime in here? Because I know I see you over there. Waiting. I see you over there waiting.
But just to kind of piggyback off you, it's like, you have a million one things coming at you, and I'm like, I want more. Like, this is just not it. So is there something is this what you love to do with this business? Is this like, you seem like you have this crazy mind, not to be negative.
You can't use that word.
Absolutely. But your mind is just forever going, because I know that's how we are. Like, there's always something, oh my God, I want to do this, and I just keep pushing the envelope, so like I can't push it anymore. Is that how you were with building this business?
Yeah, one of the first things that I did is I went out and found people that I thought were smarter than I was. Mm-hmm. So that if you find yourself where you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Mm-hmm. Get the hell out. Yep. Like that's some solid advice. So I went out and found people who are willing to be like, nope, no. Like, so that way, you know, iron sharpens iron. And then you get to a point where you have to really work on your ideas. And there's a whole, so also maybe to take it back a little bit, we also, and I know you have it too, so hopefully I'm not ruining anything that you've got going by letting this out, but like, there's a propensity to, like, sometimes when people say violence doesn't solve anything, we know that's not exactly the truth. And there's like an inclination sometimes where you're like, look, I'm just gonna smash the hell out of this person because they have it coming. And the world is set up to use that instinct against you once you cross a certain threshold, and you can't solve it with brute force or violence. And so, like, you gotta understand how to be patient and manage things through proxy, and actually set up like markers and checkpoints along the way. And what you do when you surround yourself with people who push back is you start to learn how to manage them in other ways. And that's been pretty important. And I purposefully look for that when I'm interviewing people to bring onto the team. Like, do you have convictions of your own, and can you back them up? Not are you just super opinionated and won't stop talking, but like, do you bring something to the table, and are you willing to like say, no, this is what I think. It's not just enough.
Be scared.
Yeah, don't be scared. Be different. Be smart. But you know, we have a floor full of people out there who are perfectly willing to go their own way and defend it. And I think it's super important to company culture, like as you're building it. But like, yeah, that's been important for me.
I want to get back to you. I want to introduce Tim here because he's been here. I want to definitely get him on, but we're going to definitely come back to the culture that you've built here at SocialFlow. But I want to introduce another good friend of mine, a brother of mine, hailing from Philadelphia. We met at Temple University. Tim Moore, how you doing, sir?
I'm all right. How's everything?
Everything is everything. So I keep hearing and seeing on social media about these cheesecakes and these cheesecakes. Tell the people what you are doing and what you're about.
Yeah, my name is Tim Moore, and I'm the owner of Moore Flavors Bakery, where we specialize in the best flavored cheesecakes out there. So I personally just love making cheesecakes. It's just relaxing, it's fun. But it came about because my wife liked Junior's cheesecake, and she said they switched up their recipe.
Oh, so you had to make it better, huh?
Well, I said I could make one better. And I just got tired of spending $8 for a slice of cheesecake.
That is expensive.
Yeah.
It is pretty expensive. So
I did the laboratory.
Yeah. So walk us through that process. Like, you know, what was the vision? Like, you just like, I'm just going to make these cheesecakes and see if people like them, or you had a vision, or you still have a vision of where you go?
I just want to make sure I could provide her strawberry cheesecake.
Oh.
At the end of it, it was just making sure she gets a snack.
You just melted that Stephanie's heart over there. She was like, "That's so cute."
That is cute. So did you?
You're setting the bar kind of high.
I know you ruined it for me.
People I know are gonna see this.
So is she happy with the cheesecake? All
My
of them?
cheesecake is the only cheesecake she eats.
Oh.
Yeah.
She has to.
No, she don't.
I mean, she has
She
to.
can go somewhere else and eat the cheesecake, but mine is the only cheesecake. I have converted people. People who say they don't like cheesecake. My cheesecake is the only cheesecake.
Well, we want to do a taste test in a few minutes, though.
It's the special ingredient that you put in there that makes it so
The flavor.
good.
He can't tell you that.
It's a flavor. So
Okay.
if you go get a cheesecake, traditional cheesecake, if you get a strawberry cheesecake, it's a plain cheesecake topped with some type of strawberry or blueberry or pineapple or whatever it is.
Right.
The only time you get the flavor inside if it's like a marble type cheesecake.
Right.
But for the most part, the plain cheesecake
With
topped
something
with
on
some
top.
type of fruit flavor,
So you
which
put a
means you're
twist
getting
of it.
cheated out of the flavor. Because if you don't get any flavor on the fork, you just eating a plain cheesecake. And you should go back and get your money back. So
Sounds
I
about right.
infused the flavor of the
Okay.
cheesecake. I'm like a Baskin Robbins
Oh.
cheesecake. I got over 50 flavors of cheesecake.
You do.
That's crazy.
Okay.
I'm still growing.
I'm still surprised. Like, I'm going back to the days.
Yeah, everybody look, they be like, oh, this dude he's a baker. I get people from high school like, yo, he gave up a football helmet and picked up an apron.
Right.
Hey,
You know what I
it
mean?
works
Like,
though, right?
yeah.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
You was a rapper.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I just remember you back in Temple days at Peabody Hall, and we fooling around like there was nothing cheesecake about you.
Nah.
So you explain that motivation. So let's talk about where you plan on taking this thing. Like we talking about national distribution? Are we trying to keep it local? Like what's the
eventually
vision?
I want to be able to ship it national. So that's the only reason why the website isn't up and running.
Gotcha.
Because I want to be able to ship it the way it leaves Brooklyn. So once I figure out the proper way to ship it and it get to the destination the way it left Brooklyn, the website be up and running. But for now, I travel from here. The furthest south is Maryland, and the furthest north I've been is up to Connecticut. So I deliver.
You deliver them
I deliver
yourself.
Yeah, I drive.
That's crazy.
So
That is.
it's like he was saying, it's a hustle. So I grew up in one of the worst parts of North Philly, where the end of my block was like crack heavy. And a lot of my friends didn't make it out. So either they dead, jail, strung out, or whatever. But my group of people that I grew up with, we all kind of connected and we all kind of leaned on each other, helped each other out, and we all made it out.
Get you on a documentary.
You know what I mean? So, and my household was like the Cosbys in a bad neighborhood. Both my parents are there, my two brothers.
You're still there now.
My parents, they moved out, they moved back.
Okay.
So that house, that's where everybody migrated to. So I cut hair on the porch, so everybody was constantly in the house.
This all sounding kind of familiar.
Yeah.
I cut hair down at Temple. So that was my outlet. Just I know who my close friends are. You know what I mean?
So have any of your family members inspired a specific cheesecake?
Now, usually friends that ask me, do I make a certain type of cheesecake? And if I say I didn't try it, I just go in the lab and I figure it out.
Well, this is what we're going to do. On the Empowerment Perspective podcast, we're going to have a cheesecake named after the Empowerment Perspective group.
Yeah, no problem.
No doubt. We're going to put your information on the website, and we're going to let people know how they can get in contact with you. And we're going to get that distribution out there for you. So you can stop putting miles on your car.
I know I'm going to put miles on the car regardless. 'Cause I like to interact with people. And I like to see people in the taste. You know what I mean? So, like I said, the motivation was my wife. I met her at Temple. She was graduating. So I'm like, either you let it go and the distance you could try to see if it works, or you figure out how to keep it working. So I just transferred up here to LIU. And win-win. I figure if it don't work out, I'm in New York. There's a ton of women. But if it do work out, I got the one I wanted. You know what I mean? So it worked out for me because I got the woman I wanted. I got 2 beautiful kids, 2 boys, and she liked cheesecake.
And now you got banging cheesecake.
That's crazy.
So did you major in stats?
No, I got an accounting degree.
That makes sense. Accounting the bacon.
So when you look at bacon and you look at numbers, 1 + 1 always got to equal 2. So bacon the same way. It's not like cooking. Cooking is like creative writing. You can always jazz it up to make it
That's true.
taste or sound good. But with bacon, you can't jazz it up because if you try to jazz it up, it's not going to come out. So if you take something away, you have to put something in that's equivalent to make sure it come out the same way. The cheesecake the same way. So if I add too much liquid, how can I substitute something else to make sure the batter's firming up so it stays consistent and the flavor is still coming through?
Gotcha.
So I don't use any flour because I don't want it to be a cake and get all grimy. I want it to be creamy and smooth. Cheesecake.
So are you doing this all out of your home, or you running?
Yeah, no overhead right now.
Hey.
No, so I crunch the numbers. To me, I figure it got to make sense. So how much is it for a batter? How much I can get out that batter, and what's the ingredients, and what's the cost of that one batter, and how much I can make off of it, since I don't have any overhead.
Right.
So I did that probably like 2-3 years ago when I was working at this advertising company.
Okay.
It got to the point where I'll go to work, come home, and then from like 8 to 1 or 2 in the morning, I'll bake. And I did this probably for like the last, say about 2.5 to 3 years. Because I wanted to make sure this is a legit business.
Right.
So I start just giving out samples to see if people wanted to order. And orders start coming in. You create a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and people start liking, they DM you, they contact you, and then I travel back and forth to Philly. And before you know it, like you getting a ton of orders. So it's like, okay, if I make 20 grand off this, I got put 10 away for 2 kids and they debt free in college. So that way they don't have no debt to pay. A couple months into it, you're like, man, let me do some more research. Let's see how much cheesecake is made, how much people make off cheesecake. Juniors is a privately owned company. They don't post it. Cheesecake Factory, publicly owned company, so they got to post their revenue. Last year they made like $14 million off cheesecake.
Sometimes those are not.
Dude, you give me a 0.5% of that.
You good to go, right? I want this question is for both of you. It's the young Damiso Josey coming up. What advice? And I'm interested in starting my own business. What advice would you give this young man, starting with you, Frank, from Franklinville? What's the advice you want to give him? I'm a high school student. Let's say 11th grade.
Yeah. So I say take all of that nonsense that people feed you about doing what you love and throw it out the window. And realize there's going to be some things that you love, but if you're going to get there, you gotta work to get there, right? You might have to do some dirt, lift a little bit of heavy things along the way to get to where you really want to be. Find some way to maximize your opportunity, because really it's an arbitrage on time. How much can I advance myself in as little amount of time? And what you do is you find some way to accelerate what you want out of life in time. And I'm not talking about doing stuff that make you miserable. Like, don't do what I did. Don't do that. But you got to realize, like, if you think you're going to graduate high school and just do what you love and become filthy rich doing it, you're not. Because a lot of the trade-off is, like, you do stuff now to free up time later, but you also got to live your life a little bit in between. So it's like, what I would say is find people that you can trust, that you can work with, that is going to make the time you spend in whatever you're doing worth it, and the camaraderie and the learning. And like, you're gonna fail, but make sure you fail with people that can all have your back, and you build yourself up that way. I don't know what to tell you as far as like what business to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that the way you do it is you surround yourself with people that are the real deal, the real people, and you do the best you can. You go all out.
And how did you learn that lesson?
From us growing up, and like I was always fortunate enough to have, you know, Christian, you, Randy, and Jay, and all those guys, Andre, you know, like, you know, Jamie Olsey's guys that were like real, that no matter what happened would have you and pick you up, and I got to see that other people didn't necessarily have that, you know, and it stuck with me that like no matter where you go, like I have people out here, actually that guy right there I've known him for 21 years.
Who's that guy?
He's my college roommate, Craig Pentland. He runs the account team here. Our CTO, I've worked with him for 12 years. When you find good people, you stay with them.
So what you're saying is build your tribe?
Yeah. Not everybody gets in. Not everybody deserves the same level of access. You should treat every person you meet, I think, just my personal opinion, every person you meet, you should treat them like a person, but don't give them extra credit until they earn it.
Now, how did they, how did you build it so that they would trust Frank Speiser or what you were doing? Because my assumption is that these people that are on your team didn't necessarily have the same dream and vision as you. Like when I'm struggling with the Empowerment Respected group, is finding people that are passionate about at least something similar to what the company is all about.
Yeah, so that's where my co-founder comes in, because I met him when I was about 19 or 20. But I'm a competitive person, and I know you are as well. And what I do is I find people who are good at what they do and work really hard, and I try to beat them. I try to outwork them. So like, there's nobody.
Beat me.
There's nobody out there that like, you know, you just surround yourself by people that don't want to lose. Absolutely. And then you try to raise the bar and do better and do better and do better, and it's like a virtuous cycle, you know.
I see you shaking your head over there.
Because we talked about this, and we talked about surrounding ourselves with people who are more intelligent than us. And I feel like from where we live, we don't have a lot of that. I mean, there may be some hidden, but we don't. I feel like we have to go outside of where we live to find those people and finding our tribe and finding the people that you can trust. I've been in many experiences with just trying to build my own business that people are just kind of there to ride your coattail. I don't want that. I want you to have that drive just as much as I have, and kind of let's build. You might be doing well in what you do, and I do well in what I do, but if we come together as a team, we can be powerful. Let's do this. Let's rock. You know what I mean? I find that the difficult part in building a business is really finding your tribe and finding people who are smarter than me and who have done things that I haven't done before, because I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm at a dead end.
Yeah, well, that happens a lot. I was super lucky to Christian and he's been my, one of my best friends since I was 10, and he and I were super competitive, and even though he was crazy and a cross country runner, and we'd run around out on the roads, 7-8 miles or whatever, I always offered to pick him up and drive him wherever he's going, but that's what he wanted to do. But he was really big on being your own person and being an individual. So like I at least had one other person to pivot off of, and sort of like he was always about grades and sports and all this other stuff, and we had each other to keep check on, and he didn't. I drove with him the first time he met his father. We drove to Bethel Mill Park to meet his dad for the first time. So we were like, my dad worked second shift, and I don't blame him. He did what he had to do to support the family. It was basically me and Christian being like, all right, well, what did you do today? Like, and trying to figure out like how are we gonna make it out of this. So like I was lucky enough to have that, and if I haven't said thank you to him, I should. But
saying it right now.
Yeah, but, yeah, it was great to have that.
So go back to the core. So for me, it's like you have a core group of friends that you grew up with, or a core group of family members that always had your back. Regardless if you try something and it fails, they always say, look, go out, you can still do something great. My thing is I tell people, if you're passionate about something, see if you can turn that into a business. You can go work for somebody to see how their company is run. So you could go and pivot off and do your own thing, but you have to get some type of knowledge of it. You know what I mean? So, but if you find that passion, and this is the reason why people play sports, it's hard for them to leave a sport because they love it, they're passionate about it, and they can't see themselves doing anything else. So they go out and run miles, shoot 10,000 jump shots just to be the best. So if you find that passion and you love to do it, you could partner with somebody else to see if, you know what I mean, if it'll work out. Maybe you know the finance end of it, because I just like the creative part, to see if it works. It's just, for me, I know the finance part of it. The creative part is just the decorating of the cakes. You know what I mean? So it works, and I'm a one-man show, but eventually I can't do it all by myself. You're going to have to trust somebody, but you're going to have to partner with somebody that, like you said, hopefully they're smarter than you. You know what I mean? I have like one of my nieces just graduated law school. I got 2 other nephews that's in law school, and I keep telling them, like, look, I'm going to need lawyers, because I need somebody to go over the contract. So whatever contract law class you got, make sure you're good, because you'll be on retainer. Because I don't see this as just a small mom and pop shop. It can blow up as big as I want it to be. But for now, I just want to keep it tight to myself. And
until you're ready.
And grow generational wealth, because we all come from the same spot. Regardless if you're in Jersey, I'm in Philly, you're in Brooklyn. If we're never taught financial freedom, we always taught go to school, go to college, get a job, go get a city job. It's stability. They don't tell you about freedom.
No, you're right.
Like, that time is free. I worked as a finance person for the last 15 years. They let me go 2 months ago. You know how free I feel?
But you're right, though. They don't teach that stuff that you need to, like, you know. I saw an Instagram meme last week, and it said, I'm gonna sanitize it a little bit, but it was like, you know, I can't balance a checkbook, but at least I know what goes on inside of a cell. Like, you know, like, like, I mean, like, they don't teach you anytime doing that, you know. And the other thing is, you know, kids have a saying, like that old guy with a cane in the corner talking about back in my day. But kids have a saying, you know, like, no new friends. And I don't necessarily think that's what you need to live by, but it's not too far off. Like, you shouldn't just
let anybody in.
like, because when you go to pick someone to help distribute your product, or to make sure your books are straight, or to make sure your contracts are right, like, if you don't trust that person implicitly, like, things will go wrong. Like, and you know, I've seen it happen. So, you know, I know most of the times when startups fail in the tech world, it's not just it's a bad idea. It's the team. The first reason it falls apart is the team can't get together. And somebody, like, bails out and doesn't pull their weight. And then the second thing is they construct a situation where you can't succeed financially because you set expectations that you can't meet, or whatever. And then the third thing is you bring in bad people and then just run it into the ground, because you're expected to scale so fast, and then you could make 8 great hires and the 9th one is terrible, and you ruin the company. So
Malcolm Gladwell has in his book, he talks about having the right people on the bus, you know, and in the right seat. So that's really, really important, in making sure that you have the right people in the right seats on your team, and getting rid of the ones that aren't the right ones that are on there.
And you can't be afraid to let people go, because it's your vision at the end of it. Nobody's going to see your dream. I don't care how well you paint the picture. They're not going to get the brushstrokes the way you get it. So trying to sell your dream to somebody is hard. like you were saying, trying to get people in that's passionate about something that you're creating. And I find it the same way, because trying to get somebody to come on board with me to say, yo,
It's cheesecake.
it's cheesecake. That why we don't do cake? Because I want to do cake. I want to do nothing but cheesecake. Why? Because don't nobody else push cheesecake. You find your lane. Oh, well, all right, go. Get out of here. I don't need you. Everybody that I've come in contact with in my life has helped me in this journey. No one is an island to himself. Everybody has some type of help. I have the person who set up my corporation, my accountant. I worked with this dude for like 2-3 years. He was a former manager. Now he has his own accounting firm. So, like I said, you partner with people that are like-minded, that are passionate. They don't have to be passionate about yours, because you don't need them in that aspect, but they're passionate about their own. So you like, I know I could trust you. Right. You're not going to let yours fall.
Just to add to that, actually, that's a good point. So when you start making it and you start to grow the business, right? When you grow, there's not a lot of margin. Like, it's not like you're just raking it in, because you're in growth mode. When you're in growth mode, you should aim to grow at about the same rate that your revenues are growing. So like, you're not actually making more money for yourself. You're scaling up the business, right? So that's the goal. And then that's the hard part, because if you hire somebody that makes you dip below, so what you got to keep in mind is, and this is when people say, "Oh, you have no heart. You're just a ruthless business owner or whatever." If you're growing a company and you have 15 people that are working their heart out to make sure that they're all on board, growing and helping this work, and then you make 2 or 3 questionable hires, now you're in a position where you got to say, "All right, well, we can keep burning, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, and maybe they turn it around or maybe they don't." And I'm saying, like, as a good manager, you try to rehabilitate them. But if they can't get with the program, you can't go to the 15 people out there who are really doing it and say, "Look, we're going to have to close down, and you don't have a job, and your kids can't have braces, and you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage because these 2 or 3 other people aren't going to make it." Like, you owe it to yourself and to the people that put their trust in you to make sure that if they're not doing their job, they're out. And you should foster a culture set. Like, you walk in the door and because you're sitting in that chair, you deserve it, because you wouldn't be if you couldn't handle it.
Right. And I think going back to, we talked about work ethic and having that drive. I think that, to me, that's like number one. I can teach you by business, and I can teach you how to teach. I can teach you all these things. But if you don't have that drive, if you're not hungry, if you're not willing to try to outwork me, then I don't feel like you need to be a part of this team. And it's going to be hard. Like you said, I'm a competitor. So I don't sleep. I do things, and I just grind all the time. I mean, and then I think that's what it's about. And I want people that are on that team that does the same thing. And it stems from our football days.
Football days. I was just thinking now, there's a bunch of times when you and me would be in the gym, and then after basketball practice, and they would be like, "Look, we got to turn the lights off, but you guys knock it off, because we're
trying to dunk,
going one-on-one against each other, like, because
It never stops.
It never stops.
Yeah.
It's always competitive.
But you need that, though. Like, you need that in life in general. Like, whether it's a relationship, whether it's business, like, you gotta have that drive and that fight in you. And I have a T-shirt that says, "I will not lose ever." That's my mentality that I go into. Just being super competitive. But
and there's so much more room for improvement. We're not all knowing. So what you can learn and get out of people, places, and things is so important.
And that goes back, and you just reminded me, the problem with our community is that who's going to teach these kids how to have financial freedom? Who's going to teach these kids how to truly make it in this world? Because our communities, like you said, they're broke. There's people in our community that don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Think about this. So I grew up in a drug-heavy neighborhood. There's people that dropped out of high school, but they was killers.
Yeah, I believe it.
They was financial managers.
Absolutely.
They was CEOs. Like, one of the dudes that supplied everything. I know the dude. He graduated, but he wasn't the brightest dude. But he owned a Fortune 500 company. This was illegal.
I say the same thing. It's the same business. It's a different language.
I took that same business and just made it legal. So
exactly.
Power and perspective.
Exactly. So you take CDs, You burn CDs, sell them out the trunk of your car, right?
Yeah.
Gas station. I take cheesecakes, put them in coolers, and push it out the trunk of my car.
Right.
The whole thing is to get your name out there,
Fair.
so that way you don't
Build
have
your
to do
brand.
that
You
part.
got to build your brand.
Exactly. And with social media, it's a
Yes.
lot of free advertising at a lower scale for a small business to operate on.
And social media is so big that you can put almost anything out there for
Exactly.
people to see. But it's how do you do that? How do you get there? How do you get to that point? And how do you do that the right way?
It's all about the
Now I'm struggling a little bit because coming from the hip hop generation, we started from nothing, the grassroots thing. So at the core of it, I feel like social media is cheating a little bit. Like I was driving up, I was like, I need a street team for my book. Like where's the sign? I want to go back to that grind and that element.
It helps you out. It aids
Right.
you. So instead of going out and putting a lot of stickers up and this is who I am, you could partner with people who have like a higher following. If you give somebody your book, like, hey, this is what I do, this is what my book is about, and let them post it on theirs,
Mm-hmm.
and now to 30,000 people you probably never could reach,
Right.
it hits them.
Now listen, I'm grateful for social media. I'm not, this is a part of me that still wants that grassroots thing, but I definitely see the power in social media. So if you take that work ethic that I'm looking for and you put it in a vehicle like social media, like the sky should be the limit. You should be able to reach the world with whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's
Yeah,
just a
but that's
matter
just
of
one lane.
right.
You still have to go out and put yourself
You gotta
out.
put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially what we do, we want people to see us as human. You know what I mean? And not just be like, oh, there's Stephanie, she's on the billboard, or there's Stephanie, she's on Facebook. No, I like to.
You gotta touch
people
the
know
people.
me.
You got to
touch them like a heart.
The problem that you have now is, one, a lot of people can't handle the feedback loop, because before you'd have a broadcast radio show or you'd have a TV station and you didn't see the feedback. So a lot of people are turned off by what they put out in the world. A lot of people want to knock you down and don't read the comments for the most part. Read the comments to sample it, but don't stay in there and just let it take you over.
Down.
But the real problem that you face is no longer a distribution problem. It's a signal to noise ratio, where you have to find the signal within all the noise. Like you might have, just say 10,000 listeners, but really 60 of them are going to do stuff for you every week. So how do you evaluate and figure out who they are and turn that 60 into 80, into 100? It's still the hip hop metaphor where it's like, if it's 2 mil, I'm going to try to move 3.
Right.
That's like what you're trying to do, but it's the same game. But what you do is you strip off the noise and you focus on where the value is, and it's still moving stuff out of the trunk of your car. It's just you got a really big trunk.
That's what you do, right?
Yeah, people come to us with tractor trailers full of stuff to move now. So I'm in that business where
big boys.
they're like, look, we don't know. We have 400 editors fighting over who gets to put their story out over this handle. So can you evaluate this and help us get the most for it? Because being off, by 10% is for some of these companies tens of millions of dollars, right?
Wow.
So if you guess, you're leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table, and if you at scale the media doesn't distribute itself properly, then you wind up in a situation where the media is ineffective, and they have to start doing things which compromise what the function of media is for. So one of the things that we've tried to solve for is how do you get the most value for your just organic distribution? You give us the news that you would normally spread. How do we figure out how much it's worth so you don't get top 10 lists of everything and clickbait on all this stuff? How do you figure out which things bring back audience, which then gives you value, and then how do you build from that? Because there's no end of Facebook, right? It's an open-ended game theory problem. So what you want to do is every game turn you take against the audience, you want to improve the slope of the yield of that audience in perpetuity. And you want to figure out how to keep.
Okay, wait a minute. Time out.
No, I get it. I worked in advertising for 15 years. So you went from a ton of print to a lot of digital, where now people are trying to get that digital advertisement, either web banners, emails.
But if you print a bad article, people stop reading.
Stop reading.
Right. So what you want to do is it's a micro version of that, just over and over. And every time you share something into the world, you're either improving or degrading your chances of success.
So I put out a bad looking cake. People are like, ew.
Right.
And that one,
it's the same
and it
thing.
could just be that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So your book is a huge thing.
And marketing is a huge thing, and social media is a huge thing.
Absolutely.
I just want to be able to do that correctly so that I can hit the people that I want to reach, the women. So that is my major issue. How do I do that, and how do I do that effectively?
Yeah. Well, part of it's just, doing what he's done, which is like drive, go meet people, shake some hands, because I'll tell you what, like, I do a lot of business with people out in Silicon Valley, and you would think that most of the stuff you do, over Google Hangouts or whatever, but the best results is when I get on a plane, I go out there and I meet face to face and talk through it. And so if you meet 500 people, I'll give you a real world example. When I went to get this company funded for its A round, I talked to 124 investors.
Oh, wow.
118 of them turned us down to my face. Well, probably 80 of them turned them down to my face, and then the other ones sent me they ghosted me.
Nice.
So, but
you gotta guess.
But that's the thing. Like, eventually you find out where the signal is, and then you sort of zero in on that.
So how do you handle failure? Because I know a lot of people that come up to me and say, I want to start this business, and then they hit that brick wall, and then they automatically just kind of just give up.
Failures build you.
Spoiler alert: when you're an adult, most of life is failure.
Yep.
And they don't tell you that because everything from when you're a kid is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Here's what you do. Here's what you're supposed to do next. Well, go to high school. Go to college. Oh, if you get good grades, then you win. Then you come out of college, and there's nothing you're supposed to do next. And everything you do, even if it's it's still failure compared to something else.
Right.
So what you have to do is you have to be confident in yourself and your path. And instead of it being about an absolute win, you have to be able to find a vector. Yeah, and I think you stay on an improvement path, and that's success, I think. I could be wrong because I haven't made it, but
Did you think about it? Like I said, I make over 50 flavors of cheesecake. So I was in the kitchen, I'm looking at all these spices. I was like, let's make a chili cheesecake. Let's make a Dorito cheesecake. Take them to work. And I could tell by people's reactions, because when I used to take them, they were like, oh man, this is good. They're like, it's all right. It sucks. But I know, you got to know where that line is.
Right.
But you can't be afraid to get close across that line, because at the end of it, if you don't take that chance, nobody else going to take it for you to say, hey, try this. You got to be willing to fail. Right. And all that does is, okay, this is what I did wrong. Figure out what was the failure in that, and let me see if I correct that, or maybe I go a different route. Yeah. But if you're not willing to take that chance, you just want to give up. Let me go work at the post office.
Well, I mean, there's failure in every success story.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Steve Jobs got fired from Apple. How many products do you think Facebook shuts down every year because they're like, we tried it didn't work, we scrapped it. You have to be willing to take a Dorito cheesecake to work and see. All right, because if your ego can't take that, then you're never going to be the outlier.
Right.
If you stay in the middle of the bell curve, you never get the edges. Right?
You got to deal with all the no's until you get to that yes. Just perfect your craft.
Tell me, don't lie to me, because if you lie to me,
how am I going to get better?
I know somebody who just yes.
Right.
I'm not giving you more tests. You just want free stuff.
So going back to the negative comments, I do see that there's value in that too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
That's why I said don't live in it,
right?
Yeah, but
I got you. So, but
Everybody isn't going to agree with you right about.
oh, absolutely.
So you take it.
Exactly.
But if you find 30 people in a row all saying
Saying
you're
it,
like,
yeah.
well, maybe I need to take this.
Like, maybe I need to take this part out.
Right. That's crazy. I'm just reflecting on it's with the release of my book and what people were telling me. I feel like some of them aren't being real. Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. If you don't like
Tell
the
me the
book,
truth.
you don't like the book. And everyone's just been telling me, that they like it and they cried certain spots. I want to know the spot that you didn't find, appealing, and that you were like, you could have wrote
Who's
that.
real with you?
You want your next book to be better.
Right.
Well,
Right.
since I'm in the book, I was dying laughing. I'm like, God, what the heck?
Did he get it right?
It's right.
Okay.
But
Well,
I was just shocked because he didn't tell me why I was in the book.
no.
You
Let's
didn't
go
tell me
back.
everything.
We had a conversation, and I did let you know you were going to be in the book. And what was your reaction at first?
I'm like, I think I said, okay, whatever. I wasn't really worried.
Yeah, true. I didn't tell you about.
You
what
didn't.
You're right. Now I'm reflecting on it.
Yes,
You're absolutely
you didn't
right.
tell me exactly.
But
what
it's
to
so
do, which
much
is
better
fine.
finding out.
It was just
later.
hilarious. I was dying laughing. You got to read it. You got to
That's
just
Oh,
read
mine
the
come
book.
on Wednesday.
I'm in there. Just figure me out.
That's
You will.
funny.
It's pretty easy.
That is funny.
But no, I love to see like people I grew up with or people that came in contact in my life
Mm,
doing well.
mm,
Absolutely.
Like is especially when I know where we all come
came
from.
from, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To see people like I don't know you and you guys come from the same spot and to see you in New York got your own spot, you probably never thought. And wow, I never thought I'd be making cheesecake for a living. Truth,
No, I think
you know what I mean. So
And you know what's so funny? Because he was telling me where he was going, and I wasn't supposed to come. And then when he was like, "Oh, can you come to New York for Frank's business?" I'm like, "What's his business?" I had no idea. I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like I didn't even know. Like I didn't know anything that you did. I'm like, "Go ahead, Frank." That's all. It's amazing.
it's like a warm feeling
Mm.
that
It
you get.
is.
We like, I'm glad
And then-
everybody doing their thing.
But I think that's what a lot of these young people are missing today. There's
Because
so
everything
much.
is instant.
Right. And they're so, worried about themselves. And if they're not winning, then, no one should be winning. And where our mentality is like, if we're all not winning, then I'm not winning. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're all going to.
Yeah, there's a sense of loyalty that
Mm.
bonds you and your team, and if somebody's lagging behind and you don't try to help, but
Mm.
you kind of feel, that in yourself. The other thing that I think's changed a lot, which I think corresponds to the change in hip hop, right?
Mm.
Where I'm a big Chuck D fan, and from that line of stuff. When we go into my office, you'll see, I have a pic from Rakim when he was on the '86 Def Jam tour or whatever. But like, there was a point where the culture shifted, and it misaligned the values that the hustle, the grind, the creativity, the Bronx versus Queens versus everybody trying to innovate,
Mm.
like where it switched. And part of the mistake that has manifested itself is building wealth isn't about showing people how much wealth you have.
Mm,
Building wealth should be about trying to find as many options for you and yours.
mm,
Yes.
So you and your team and your family, like how can you, I want every person that works with me to start their own
Mhm.
company and to
Absolutely.
succeed. Like I want every single one of them to call me up
So
15
crazy
years
right
from now and be like, I started this and I figured this out here. Because I had some people that helped me. Like Dan Porter, I knew Dan before he made it. Before he wound up moving, he came in as the CEO of a company called OMG Pop, which did Draw Something. They wound up selling that company for like $210 million, right? But I knew Dan back before when he was just Dan.
mm,
He's still the same Dan,
Dan.
right? He's still the same guy.
Without-
But like, it's good to have people to look at like that, and you're like, all right, well, I know what I'm shooting for,
right.
and we still have a team, and he still helps, and so like, we still talk, and
Mm,
then it's like, but right now there's this like, I don't mind Instagram and Snapchat, but it's a curated version of people's lives. It's like an avatar
yeah.
Yeah.
for
Yes.
success,
Right.
but it's not really like what is life.
Right.
It's like life is like we just talked about. It's mostly failure,
Mm.
and it's about pulling off those successes
Mm-hmm.
and hanging in there that like actually gives you the juice to keep going,
Mhm.
right? Like it's, but
Absolutely.
you know, popping. You shouldn't be 22-year-old popping bottles and driving a Ferrari. What the hell is wrong with that picture?
Right.
Like you
Exactly.
can't afford that.
Right.
Like then, besides, if that's how you,
But
if that's how
they
you
buy
fill your heart up with love,
Right.
then you're doing it wrong.
Wrong.
But that's how they make society like see.
Mm.
Like everything is instant. This is
Yep.
me. This is what I got.
Yeah.
But that's
They
nowhere near like successful. Everybody
forget
think,
about the grind.
yeah, because some people you got to think. What do you think is successful? To me, I always been rich because my
Mm.
family has been good.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I've been able to work and make enough money to provide for my family. My family don't go without. So I've always been rich.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Money comes and goes. It depends on what you do with it.
Mm.
Absolutely.
You can't take it with you.
Mm.
Absolutely.
But if you
I always
could
say this
be
all the time.
able to build something so your kids,
A legacy.
Right.
kids,
You're building a legacy.
generational wealth, and you got a community that you feed and help grow, put nieces, nephews, cousins, friends through college and let them build their own, that's that little dash
Mm.
between
Those lines.
your start and end date when you die
Means
means
something.
Absolutely.
Right. So I take that same philosophy, and you know, I don't chase money. I invest my time in people.
Yeah.
Everything that I do is people oriented. Whether I'm, you know, in education, and nonprofit world, or the empowerment perspective, I put all my energy and effort into people and cultivating relationships. The money's gonna come. I'm not even worried about it. It's gonna come and go. But developing those relationships is what, to me, is I get more kick out of someone else's success than my
Exactly.
own. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if I didn't help you, if you came on an Empowerment Perspective group and I didn't help you get to that next level, then I'm not serving my purpose that I'm here. And I think too many people are chasing after that dollar. The other piece is that we live in a competitive world. So people need to cheat to prove that they win. So you get these
Yeah.
rappers
Yeah.
that put up this facade that, you know, I got this car and this jewelry because they feel like they need to win. And everyone loves a winner. And in actuality, they're not necessarily winning because that's, even if they do have it, it's not going to last long. You're not going to last long if you're not investing your time in people and in just general love for people and helping people. So if you don't do that, you're going to,
What's the
5
point?
years, you'll be out.
Like one of the advertising companies I work with, the HR person, if you was leaving their company, oh, you never do anything better than what right here. And my whole thing, because I would tell young people, I'm like, okay, this is a job, this is your career, but you're trying to build your career. If you want to stay in this lane, you want to get as much knowledge as you can to grow into whatever the person you're going to become, if it's still in this field or somewhere else.
Right.
But don't let somebody hold a job over you, because your knowledge is that's what
Mhm.
you're put here to learn as much as you can,
Knowledge is power.
and they can never take knowledge from you.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. I mean, this is a PG-rated podcast,
Yeah.
but
I'm sorry.
I've always no, it's all right. I've always said that I've had FU money since I was a dishwasher.
Mm.
Like, you know, you're never gonna make it. You're never gonna have that generational wealth if you don't have the ability to follow through with your own beliefs. Like, if somebody is like, if you're not willing to tell someone you're worth more than they say you are,
Mm.
you are never gonna break out of that cycle.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
And it's so funny for me personally. It's really about helping other people. It's not about me. My book is, it's about me, but it's not about me. It's about helping somebody else get through life, because we all need help. It really takes a village, not only to raise children, but to raise ourselves as adults, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for some of the important people in my life. And it's so important to pay it forward, help other people, help people thrive and educate
And you
them.
never know who reads your book.
Exactly.
It'll spark them like, I'm in that spot right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
everybody has stories,
Mhm.
but who's willing to tell their story?
And
Mm.
that's the big thing.
And if you're willing to share and tell your story, it's therapeutic to you.
Yep.
But in the end, if it helps somebody
You
else
know?
get out of something,
That's the goal.
you did your job.
We were just talking about this on the way up. the more people I talk to, the more people it's like I felt like I was reading my own story. Like everybody has a story, like you said, and everybody's messed up. And I feel like what we think is like perfect is not normal. Like I haven't come across somebody that said, "Well, I had the perfect life, and this is what like I didn't go through anything." So I feel like I'm not necessarily telling anything new out there. It's just to make it right. So I think people are chasing something that really doesn't necessarily exist. You know what I'm saying? This perfect person and this perfect family, and you're going to go through something. I don't care who you are. Somehow you're going to go through. They might be 10% of the population that actually have a perfect life, but it's more common to have a messed up life than people really realize.
There's two kind of people that really need a strong backhand. One is the kind of person who presents their life as if it's perfect and everything's fine and nothing ever went wrong. And then there's the other person who takes everything they had to do that was a little uncomfortable and makes it into such a trial and tribulation where things were so hard for me. Now, granted, like there's plenty of people out there with harder lives than us, that harder life than me. But there's a lot of people who take like everything that is just a normal part of fumbling your way to success and makes it seem like they performed a miracle.
Right.
But what your point was, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but it was just you can't get from point A to point B perfectly, but at the same time, like just some bumps along the way. That's life.
That's life, right?
That's Bill's character.
Absolutely.
Like I said, my household was like the Cosby Show. In my neighborhood, I remember, I think I was probably like in the 4th, 5th grade. They said, "Hey, who live with their family? Who lives with their mom?" So I raised my hand. Other people raised their hand. Who live with their dad? I raised my hand. Other people raised their hand. Who live with both their parents? I raised my hand. And when you look around the class, it's like 1 or 2 other people. And I really didn't realize it, but one of my neighbors. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, how pop isn't there?" But when you realize like how special that is, especially in those type of neighborhoods that have both parents that's in it, and they there to guide you.
Right.
And I share my parents with a neighborhood, literally a neighborhood. Anybody come knock on the door, they like, "Yo, what's up?" And they're like, "No, is your pop here? Was your mom here?" You be like, "Yeah, they there." And they sitting there, they talking to them, telling whatever story. You know what I mean? But it's therapeutic to them, so they can get to where they need to go. I witnessed a ton of stuff that was crappy to show me I don't need to go that route.
Right.
I don't have to go through the fire. So your book is telling people, or either some rappers, you don't have to go down this lane, but you choose to because you're insane. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to wrap this up a little bit. We're getting close to that time. So any last words? We'll start with you, Dr. Iglesias, in terms of just what we talked about today. Any plug for your book or anything that you have to say?
So,
you look like you're like...
because I'm absorbing everything that was said today. And it's so cool to sit down and talk to you and hear everything that you're doing. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
My book is going to be coming out in 2018. Look out for it. It's Dr. Stephanie Chronicles, Far From Perfect.
Tim, any plugs?
Yeah, I got some samples for you guys.
Oh, yeah, we definitely will.
It's 5 flavors.
I can't wait.
But more flavors on Instagram, more flavors bakery on at Facebook, more flavors one, because I'm the only one on Twitter.
Okay.
You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm trying to take this cheesecake thing to a different level that nobody's seen. Forget about the boring cheesecake. Get some flavor in your cheesecake. Come to more flavors.
Right.
Frank, any words of wisdom to anyone that's out there listening?
Yeah, I don't know if I can do so much on the wisdom side of things, but I just want to say thanks for coming all the way up here. This might be the most important interview I've given yet because I get a chance to speak to people, primarily an audience built from where I'm from, and that's an honor. And I really want the people back home to understand that I've never stopped thinking about like what made me and where I come from, and this being able to speak directly back to them is really important for me. And so the only thing I can say is, like, you definitely can make it. You have what it takes. People in the world don't have a leg up. They don't have a magic recipe that you don't have, except for, maybe him right there. but there's no magic that someone else has that you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
The between you and New York City, or you or wherever you want to go, is just, it's between your ears.
Mm-hmm.
So just, you can do it. And so don't stop trying.
I definitely appreciate you, and it's been, my head is spinning right now. I'm definitely going to go back to this podcast and listen and get my notebook out and write some things down. But we've been rocking together for 30 some odd years, so you know how I feel about you and the things, and your success is just, it makes me feel proud to know that somebody came from where we came from and is doing it. So you represent for the people back home, and inspiring them to do those things, and it's such a great thing. So thank you for having us up here. A couple of closing things before we go. My book, Life Music, is on sale today for my birthday for $9.99. I know I'll leave it up for a week. I'll put it up for a week because this podcast is not going to come out till tomorrow. So you can get that in honor of my birthday. Big shout out to Stacy. You make sure you follow us on www.theempowermentperspective.com. You can catch us on Facebook under the Empowerment Perspective group, and we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, every social media handle. YouTube, we're getting there. Not quite ready for that, but again, Dr. Iglesias' book's coming out. Be on the lookout for my daughter's book's coming out. They're working on it right now. One's on cheerleading, other one's a cookbook, actually. So I might actually be hitting you up, my daughter, so she can get a cheesecake dessert, up in there, so we can make this all go big. And also the documentary, The Av, is coming out. I'm going to start shooting that probably February, Marches. You'll see Frank again on that documentary for sure. And, big thing. So thanks for paying attention to us today, and stay empowered.